Hey everybody, Merry Christmas. Matt and Corie Weathers here. We thought that even though it's right before Christmas, just 2 days I think now, we thought it would be a good idea to do a video together just to kind of wrap up a little bit the military spouse journey that we went on. And I know Matt did some great posts while I was gone as well that really resonated with a lot of you guys, military spouses for sure. And I thought Matt could share with you a little bit of what we've discussed so far as what he felt maybe might have resonated with veterans and service members who have already deployed. So we thought we'd share a little bit of that, as well as our perspective as far as this project goes on what reintegration was like for us to swap roles. This in no way mimics like a full deployment. We totally understand that. But for the sake of the project, that was one of the questions that we got today, which was for us to discuss what was it like to kind of this idea of reintegration with us swapping roles. So this is my lovely husband, Matt, my handsome husband, Matt. And and his awesome Christmas tree that he and my dad got set up for us to come home. We're still settling in, and he did an amazing job. So you want to just kind of start off and talk about what it was like to see me experience some things over there and Fenty and just whatever, really.
Okay, so to start off from where we were at and what we were going through, I was finishing up the career course down at Fort Jackson. We were getting ready for a PCS up here to Virginia, knowing that she was not going to be able to be here whenever we received household goods. So I at least knew that I'd be able to put anything wherever I wanted to put it as long as I could get out of a box. And I told her today that if she wants to move it around, then that's on her. So great. So there are some things that are already hung on the walls.
He did a good job.
So that's about as far as we got. So the house is livable, and the boys have an Xbox, and it's up and running. It was, to begin with, very interesting to watch the struggle that she had going into it and the feeling of guilt for having to leave. I mean, she had written something that's she's putting this into a book, but she had written something about feeling the push and pull of having a mission, having something she wants to go do, something she needs to go do, feels called to do, and also wanting to be at home and wanting to be there for the family, there for the kids, there to help get everything set up. Then especially right before the holidays, feeling like, obviously she's not going to miss the holiday, but feeling like it interrupts preparing for the holiday. So it was interesting to watch her go through that. And at some point in time, I told her, I said, the experience of putting yourself in the other role doesn't just start whenever you get there. It starts in your preparation for it. Because we reflected back on prior to my deployments, or even to a long-term mission readiness exercise that I've done a couple of times. There's the quiet. There is the everybody kind of starts to go their own separate way, and they kind of make that division. There's not wanting to have any blow-up arguments, but still you feel this tension of, is this going to go ahead and get here so we can go ahead and get this over with? So it was neat to see that in her, and for her to experience that and to understand that's really kind of what it's like in my shoes prior to heading out, or for any service member prior to heading out. So there was that, at least.
I think if I were to, there was so much that I experienced. There was no way I could put it in a blog or in a video each night. I worked hard to really summarize all of that each day. But that's one of the reasons why I'm really putting a lot of my thoughts down in kind of book form, because there really was so many things to experience and too much to experience to be able to just sum it up each night. So
one thing that I noticed today, and now we're talking about the event while you're gone. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about that, or do you want to talk about reintegration?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So we talked about this at Panera today. And I thought about it for couples where they're dual military, or one of the spouses has been prior service and is no longer in. There was almost, for me, there was a jealousy on my part watching what she was going to get to experience. I love flying around. I love catching rides on C-17s, Blackhawks, Chinooks, any airframe. I'm amazed by it, and I think it's just a blast to go around. It's an adventure. And so there was a jealousy on my part to watch her go have this adventure. And even though I'm happy for her, I'm excited that she's going to do it, and it was a blast, there was also a little bit of like, oh man, I would love to be going to do that. But it comforted me when she would reflect at night about how she now saw in me why I like to go do that, why it just fulfills me, why it brings me purpose and gives me that mission. I'm going to have to drink a lot of tea today because
We've been talking about how we both kind of, when I got back, it was almost like, and I'm going to get a little spiritual here, and that's okay, that God really held off sickness for us, and there was much grace in that with how stressed we were, with how trying to get everything pulled together, and we both really stayed well through everything. And how, in the last 2 days, we both kind of felt the weight of all of that stress. And so I laughed because, most of us military wives talk about service members coming home with the crud, is what they call it. And so either the service member comes home sick or he comes home and gets the rest of the family sick. And so I've been kind of laughing a little bit, not laughing at you that you're sick, but laughing that...
I'm going to shut the Christmas tree off because that flickering...
The flicker. You've enjoyed the Christmas tree long enough. We're going to shut it off now. But just talking about how now that we've had a chance to rest, it really is, our adrenal glands are recovering from all of the stress. Actually, the lighting is so much better anyways.
Oh, look at that.
I look great. I'm just kidding.
Fantastic.
You look great.
The Christmas tree was so working against you in that moment.
Anyways.
Now we know why they don't put Christmas trees in magazine articles or anything. They're just... bare bones. They're not available in commercial products.
Anyways, we're recovering, and so we've been talking about how that's very similar to, I think, after deployment. And so, all right, so let's jump into reintegration. People have asked us about to cover what it was like for us to reverse roles in reintegration. And I think what was surprising to me, now I know that I didn't get to adjust really to the time zone. It was only a week. And so what happened with me is I really didn't get time to adjust to any time zone. So by the time, and I was going off of very little sleep because the schedule was crazy, and maybe that is similar to what service members go through. When I talked with them as far as random schedules, you never know if they're going to be there for like a day and have 3 hours to talk with family members, or whether they're going to be so busy they don't have time to talk at all. But I know for me, when I got home, my body was shutting down. Like I just remember like thinking, if I have, my brain is like counting down from 10, and if I don't get to the bed by 1, I think my whole body's just going to crumble to the floor. And so I know it was interesting to feel the jet lag and wanting so badly to come home and come home and just spend time with family, but to get here like a finish line and just needing to crash and trying to be present for everybody but needing to crash. And I'll tell you what Matt did, that he obviously knows this side of it, and what he did for me that I so greatly appreciated was he really served me and really like made decisions for me. Like we went out to eat on the way home, and I felt like he kind of made decisions on helping me what to eat. He really just helped me get to the bed so that I could fall asleep, and then serving me even the next morning by having coffee ready for me. And those were all things that meant so much to me. And I know those sound like little things, but just to feel like I didn't have to make any decisions while I was recovering. And his grace in telling me, for the next like 3 days, whatever you need to take care of you. And he was like, I'm going to give you what you need to keep your body healthy. And then I'll see you on the other side of that. Mm-hmm. And today was really the first day where I felt like, wow, I'm awake, I'm functioning, I feel like I'm present, and I have energy to do things. And so it was interesting to be on that side of things where before I was letting you recover, and I was happy to let you recover, but to feel all of that on this side. And this morning, Matt really needed to recover. He had worked so hard here at home that his body really needed some rest. And so I think you kind of felt bad for that a little bit, but I really just was like, we talked about the importance of taking turns and having grace for each other, and how we don't need to feel guilty for that or bad for that, that there is this push and pull and being graceful with each other and just checking in and making sure that each person has what they need, and having, I guess, a priority list of who needs it first the most. And so it made me, I told him it made me happy to give that to you so that you could go rest this morning, because I felt better. So what would you say as far as reintegration stuff?
She hit on a key piece there about grace. You have to be graceful with the other person and recognize where they're at and what they need. They need to be honest and feel the openness to communicate and say what they feel like they need in that moment. You may even need to make a plan and say, hey, I need an hour. And to not feel bad about it, and to also be graceful with yourself. I was pretty apologetic this morning that I was just completely not functioning. And I don't know if it was just my body. It just was like, and we're done. Career course, you moved out, you moved in, you received everything back. It's been a full speed sprint for the last 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. So you're done. Sometimes your body just tells you that, and you have to listen.
I think that really resonated with me because I think as spouses a lot, we tend to get frustrated when our service member comes home and needs to rest, and we're good with letting them rest, but we're kind of like anticipating when are we going to get that break, because it's been a really long time and you're ready to hand the kids over and have some time to yourself or couple time or whatever. And so, I think for a lot of spouses, there's this frustration, especially when the military is saying, oh, let them rest, and we're fine with that. And then there's like, well, now don't do anything that will upset them. And now, and so spouses can get frustrated when you feel like there really is no end in sight. And so I think the importance as a couple to be able to check in with each other and make sure you're giving each other that ample grace and time to rest that you need is extremely important. And I think that we really paid attention to that this time, as far as what do you need versus what do I need, and are we taking care of our body? Because when that adrenal gland is shot, it is connected to all of your hormones, both male and female, testosterone and estrogen. And so when you have been your adrenaline has been going pretty heavy and pretty strong for a really long time. Both men and women are going to feel that differently, but overall you're going to feel like an extreme fatigue and probably irritability. And what that feels like when your adrenal gland is shot, you're not handling stress well. And usually that sounds like you're just really tired, but actually it can also mean that you're extremely anxious and you can't calm down from stress, and you're just anticipating stress all the time. And I know that's something that we were starting to feel. So for us, with all the stress that we've had in the last few months, actually, we're on support and supplements for our adrenal glands just to recover and take care of ourselves.
So you've got that going on physically or physiologically. And then add to that the emotion of how you think you should feel, or what you should be thinking, or how you should be acting. There's a lot of shoulds in there. And so there's an emotional component to that. There's a physiological component of what your body's able to do, what your body can't do in that moment. And then there's also feeling bad for not being able to do that in that moment, or not being able to stay awake. And so you can't really put that on yourself. You really just kind of have to be graceful with yourself, graceful with the other person, and you have to maintain forthright communication. I think it was a really good example for her last week of not having a great schedule of what the last 5 to 6, sometimes 7 days of redeployment looks like. Because depending on air availability, you may be waiting 2 or 3 nights in a row up at 03 for a bag drop to drop your bag, and then show time is at 05. And then you're waiting for 4, 6, 10, 12, who knows how many long hours until you actually board the plane. Mm-hmm. And then depending on where you're at location-wise, you may have to repeat that process 3 or 4 times before you actually catch the flight on the way home. And I know that when we caught a flight home on the first deployment, we landed in Maine but could not continue on to Fort Carson because they had already gone past their "this is how long we can fly" window. So that messed things up for her, and at the same time actually got a good night's sleep in a hotel in Maine. Mm-hmm. But you've got to understand, the last week of the first week of deployment and the last week of redeployment, neither one of those are easy for the service member or for the spouse, because the spouse is anticipating, okay, when's it going to happen? When's the knock on the door going to happen? The bag going to drop in here and everybody and we're all back, and or the welcome home ceremony. And the service member is, when can I actually take my boots off, take a shower, and crash? So just takes a lot of grace in those moments with one another.
I was going to look up some of the questions that they
Yeah.
had. While I do that, why don't you share your perspective on, because I know a lot of spouses really enjoyed your posts, and so maybe share a little bit about what it was like from a spouse perspective, being here at home and not knowing when I was going to call. And
Oh, that was the first time, because on our first deployment we had no cell phones, and I would never go down to the internet cafe, and I think Facebook was blocked at that time, or YouTube was, or something. I don't know. But I was still able to call her from the office. But she was not able to call me ever because I didn't have a phone number. So the most she could do was email and then just wait for a response. There was a lot of waiting on her part. Now, I knew she was getting up early in the morning, and she and the entourage were gone for the entire day. And on my watch, I had it set for what time she was at in her time zone, even though she was bouncing around to different countries. So it was, I don't think it was frustrating for me, because I knew I was giving her the grace that I hoped that I knew that I had when I was going through it. Experientially, though, I can understand what it means. Like I think there was one day where it was like, okay, well, she should be back by now. She should have posted something by now. She should have sent me a Facebook message and, hey, I'm back to the hotel, and everything went great by now.
Did you wonder when that happened if it was just that I just didn't feel like checking in with you, or did you feel like maybe I was unsafe, or what was your brain saying as far as how I hadn't checked in yet?
Oh, and this is a thing that you have to do in marriage, and so I try and practice too. I believe that she's doing her best, and I believe the best about us. So what I was doing mentally that was helping me, that I encourage other people to do, is to envision your spouse doing something awesome. I mean, I was picturing that she was networking and helping people, and I know that if she ever gets into a situation where she's counseling or offering advice, she's all in that moment. So in those moments, I wasn't worried about your safety or security. I was literally like, you know what, I can't wait to hear what awesome things she's actually literally doing. I bet she's gotten pulled by one of those reporters who has some sort of, family problems. And it's like, oh, you're a counselor, you're a therapist, you should be able to help me on this.
Well, and I think that that's a difference between you knowing what it's like to be gone and not knowing what the schedule's going to be like versus, I mean, there was times for me as a spouse when it was like, I don't know. I think I always felt like you were probably doing something important and you couldn't call for that reason. But I've heard from other spouses who've said, usually he can call at this time. Is it just that he doesn't feel like calling and so he's just not going to call? Or is he's not safe or whatever? So I think for me, this is what we've been talking about, is that there's a lot of themes, big themes that came from this. But one of the bigger ones that I've been thinking even still about is this idea of, I know it sounds crazy, but I was really surprised in a good way to see how excited so many service members were to do their job. And it was really great for me to be excited for them, for enjoying, if I can put this into words, they loved what they did, especially when I got to see them actively doing it, them flying their plane or them a crew chief in the helicopter or whatever, for them to see them thoroughly enjoying their job when they were doing it. But even some of the troops that I saw at Fenty, the scouts that from 10th Mountain that were at Fenty, to see them smiling and enjoying their job. Of course you would want them to enjoy their job, but and I wasn't expecting everybody to be miserable either. But it surprised me to, we tend to say, oh, you're deployed, poor you, you're missing everybody at Christmas, and you just must be miserable over there, and you must just wish that you were home. And we often see our service members training back at home. We don't usually get to see them doing what they actually love to do. And so I think when they saw me thoroughly excited about their job too, and I think they saw it through fresh eyes and were like, yeah, I really do enjoy my job. Like, I'm glad you see that I enjoy my job. And so I think that the best way that I can put that is, just because somebody can love what they're doing during deployment doesn't mean that they don't love their family, and doesn't mean that they don't miss being home with their family, but they can be happy doing what they're called to do, and that doesn't equate to them not loving us back at home. Mm-hmm. And so seeing them happy made me so much more excited about them doing what they love to do. I hope that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
It made me willing to release you even more to do what you love to do, because I knew that you're called to do that, and I get to see you doing some similar things back at home. But I thought about the ones that were flying planes, and that's not something spouses usually get to sit in and watch them do very often. And so they weren't that miserable. And even for like Christmas, and I mean the Christmas decorations were minimal, but them telling me how really Christmas isn't about the decorations and Easter isn't about the decorations. It's the fact that they make a way to enjoy the family that they have there and still have a great time. And you mentioned to me today about how your Christmases over there may not have been the most decorative, but they were some of the best Christmases that he ever had. And that makes sense to me, because even as a spouse, some of the best Christmases and holidays that I've had were with family members that felt like family, even though I couldn't be with family, because it was an incredible time to be together. So one of the questions that we got is, what lengths do the two of you go to meet each other's needs, wants, desires, dreams, and realities? To what length do we go? It's a crazy question, but I mean, I think it's an important question.
Okay.
And that is,
well,
I think whatever length we need to go.
Well, you have to break up what is a need, what is a want, what is a desire, and what is a dream. And then the last one says reality. Here's the thing. Once you are able to define what each one of those is, and whether they're realistic, and whether they fit into your family mission, and whether they fit into your morals and ethics, then you can then decide, what is viable. Can we do it? Mm-hmm. There's a can we do it. There's a should we do it. Yeah. There is setting a timeline for that. So really, once you're able to discuss that with one another, to say, hey, a simple thing is, like Corie loves to bake, and I want to eventually, I would love to have the best baking equipment for her. That's a dream, a desire, a want, and kind of almost a need, with is really key as it is for her. But I can't afford we're not going to sell a car to get the Uber, grain mill dough mixer that she wants. Okay, so I would go to any length to do that. And put that need before mine, but right now it's not viable. So I've got to be able to help set expectation for her to go, yeah, we're going to get there, at some point. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe next week. But you've got to be able to define your needs, dreams, wants, desires, and whether they fit in. And that also, so there's a financial component, there's a relational component, there's an intimacy component, because I'm kind of reading through the lines of going, a lot of people come to their intimacy going, this is a need that I have, when really it's kind of a desire. Mm-hmm. And you have to find out where that desire comes from, and whether or not it's a good and a pure and a holy desire, mm-hmm. and whether it's something that needs to be entertained within a marriage. Mm-hmm. And if that's something you need a third party to intervene and say, hey, no, that doesn't meet, that's not a need, that's a desire, and it's not actually going to add to your relationship, it's going to take away from it. So then I would advocate that you mm-hmm. you figure out where that desire actually comes from. Mm-hmm. So I could give a very long answer to that. I will say that I've got her for a lifetime. So mm-hmm. I pledge that for a lifetime. Mm-hmm. I understand my mission on earth is to serve her and to make her a better person. Sometimes that's going to be meeting her needs, and sometimes it won't mm-hmm. be. sometimes it'll be going, hey, you're going to have to be a big girl and you're going to have to do that yourself. Good for you.
Yeah.
And you're going to grow through that. And I can't help you out.
Right. There's some things that there's some things, I think this is just what you were saying, is that there are some things that we aren't meant
Yeah.
we aren't meant to be the answer to the other person.